Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show where we talk to creatives and people working in the arts and the industry. And I am delighted to welcome my guest here, who's joining me for this interview. It's none other than producer Sabrina Sutherland. How are you, Sabrina?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Right, Sabrina. First question really is your interest in your interest from working in the industry. Where did your interest come from in order to sort of aspire to be working like that? Did you was it your love of television or something? Where did the sort of spark come from to want to work in the industry?
Well, actually, I loved movies all growing up. I love movies. I love TV. I just have always loved that medium. And I think high school made some short films, which were a lot of fun. But when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to a college that made me take every kind of course. And during that, my very first quarter there, I met film professor, instructor, and he was just so awe-inspiring. J.P. Gorin is his name, Gorin, French. He worked with Jean-Luc Godard, and he taught at my school, and I just fell in love with his class, and I decided that's what I wanted to do.
So involved in it, did you have to start really from like most people did from from the lower rung, as it were? Did you have to start as a runner, that kind of thing, and then work your way up, or
Oh yeah.
yeah?
Well, my very first job, I worked at Paramount and I worked as a tour guide, page, they called it. So we gave tours on the studio and also did the audiences as they came for TV shows. We'd be the person that would file the people in and sit them and then file them out after. So that was my first job. And in that, they promoted me kind of to a TV show, and I got to be the set page, which was I sat there and I answered phone calls and kind of directed people that came to that particular TV show on that stage. And then I got a job from that on that TV show, and that's how I started.
So to the point where you became, I see a lot of your credits where your title is production coordinator. Um,
Right. So that came after. So I worked as a production assistant, which is also called a runner.
yeah,
I did that for a long time because, again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do camera. I mean, I loved camera, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I was very detail oriented and very good at just organizing things. And I could easily get jobs in the office, and then I couldn't get as easy a job in the camera department. So I took those jobs when I could, but then I'd always fall back on the office. And then I had to make a choice eventually which way I wanted to go, and decided to go the coordinating route to work my way up to be a producer.
yeah. Um, so of some of your early work as a production coordinator, first of all, I want to ask you, in case some people might not know what it involves, but what
Mhm.
is the job of a production coordinator?
Well, as a production coordinator, I organize the office. So you have where you're shooting, but the office supports everything that's being shot. So I would make all of the reservations or uh, I guess reservations isn't the word, but I'd basically go to the camera house or to the lighting company and order the equipment and schedule it to be picked up and schedule it to be returned, making sure everybody had the call sheet and making sure that everything got distributed. It's very secretarial, but it's very specific to production. And so I always feel that the coordinator is overlooked because having worked that job, I know that it entails a lot. You have to know the union stuff. If you're a union, you're the person who's talking to everybody and passing the paperwork along, which is sounds easy and sounds not relevant really, but it's really a vital thing to do. And a good coordinator has vendors and contacts and can get anything at any time as quickly as possible. You know, you need film, but the company isn't open. How do you get that? Or, cards, whatever the mechanics that you need, the coordinator is responsible for it.
So it's very full on by the sound of it. It's an awful lot of responsibility, it seems. Yeah.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. There's a production manager or a line producer who will be in charge of everything, who does the budget and okays everything. But the coordinator is basically the right-hand person to execute and make sure all of that happens. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a lower rung of uh, a producer kind of to a director. A
Yes.
director wants all these things, the producer makes sure it happens. It's the same thing for the production coordinator.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of your earlier credits for as a production coordinator uh, uh, was Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. And there's a film.
Avocado Limbo. Avocado. Wait, yeah, yeah. Cannibal Women. Yeah, is that what it's called now?
Sorry, not avocado women. Sorry, I think I got that the
Cannibal
wrong way
Women.
around. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. Now that's a hell of a title for a film.
That's a good one.
What
With
do you
starring
remember
Bill
about that?
Maher,
Yeah.
of all things.
What do you remember about working on that?
I remember that it was a very quick shoot. I remember the same guy who wrote that also wrote Pretty Woman. I remember that we shot some of the stuff in Riverside, which is where my family was living at the time. And so I could go out and stay at my parents while they were shooting. And I remember it just being a lot of fun, that particular shoot. It was a silly show and it was really quick. It was a low budget. It is one of those low budget horror movies. Really great. That and Hell Comes
I've
to
never had the privilege
Frogtown.
of seeing it.
I don't know. Yeah, because that was done at the same time as Hell Comes to Frogtown, and I got to do both of those.
Oh yes, with Rowdy Roddy Piper, wasn't it? Yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Who I remember also in I think I don't know if it was I don't know whether he did Frogtown before he did the John Carpenter movie They Live or
Oh,
I'm
I
not
love
sure.
that movie. And
Yeah,
Kyle's in it. Is
yeah.
it Kyle in that one? Yeah, it's a good movie.
No, Kyle's not. Did you say Kyle? No, no, Kyle's not
Yeah,
in it.
isn't he not in it?
No.
Well,
Uh,
that one's a good one with the sunglasses, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, and I remember Roddy was in that. Yeah, where he was the main guy in it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kyle was in a different one like that.
So Twin Peaks, Sabrina, when you
Mhm.
first worked on it, the very first time, I mean, you it was Northwest Passage, wasn't it? Was that the pilot we're talking about there? Or
Yeah, so I did not work on the pilot, and
oh,
Northwest Passage is what the pilot was called, and that was shot like a movie, and it even had an ending for well, I think that they all kind of thought it would be just kind of a movie, but there was also an ending to leave it open for a series. So it was bought. And so therefore it became a series and they renamed it Twin Peaks. And I didn't start on it until after the first season. So I didn't do the pilot and I didn't do season one.
let's say, okay. So how did that come about, Sabrina? You getting involved in season two of Twin Peaks and working doing the whole thing. You know, you were on
Yeah.
every episode, you know.
Yeah. I was a production coordinator and I worked on a lot of shows and I was working on a show called Sunset Beat with George Clooney. Ha. about motorcycle cops on Harleys. And we were shooting nights, and Twin Peaks was on, and I was recording them on VHS and bringing them into the office. And so at night, while we were on location at 2 in the morning, I would watch the latest Twin Peaks, and I really fell in love with the show, like everybody else, right? So as soon as my show was done, I looked up and I called the production office of Twin Peaks and said, I really like your show. I would love to work on it. And it turned out Greg Feinberg, who is the producer, answered the phone and he said, we need a production coordinator. Can you come down? And I said, sure. So I came down actually the next day. And it was at like towards the end of the week. And he interviewed me and he said that they were changing the person who was the coordinator was going to be doing something different and wanted somebody who was an experienced coordinator to come in into that position and what I wanted. And I said, sure. And then he said, great, come Monday. We're starting the next season. So I was able just to get right on. It was great.
Any particular memories stand out for you working on on that season, uh, Sabrina? And do you think that when David went away and sort of left it for a while, doing I think he was working on Wild at Heart and stuff. Did you feel that it suffered because of that in any way? Did you see that some of the episodes would have were kind of not quite the same without his presence?
Looking back now, absolutely, it missed his cohesion and kind of his ideas, and I think Mark as well. Season two was interesting. I mean, I had the best time. I was so excited to be there, and I loved the show. I loved working on it. I thought that the episodes, the stories got personally, I thought that they got kind of ridiculous. And I even remember talking to Bob Ingalls once. I went up to him. I said, okay, you've done Frankenstein, you've done, and I just started listing these ideas. I'm like, what else are you going to steal to put in these episodes? It seemed to me not, it was kind of ridiculous. And I do think that had David been there, I know that it's a different show than what David had wanted. Now I know that. But at the time, I was just so happy to be there and I didn't care. And Mark, although there, he was kind of spread out doing other things. He was started doing American Chronicles. David, I think, did the pilot of On the Air. There were a lot of other activities that they were involved with. And it was really Harley Payton and Bob Engels who were there every day and kind of ran the set and did the scripts. I think Harley was the showrunner on season two. I don't even think Mark was. Mark, of course, was kind of the, overall guy who was there, but again, he was distracted doing other things. So it was really Harley and Bob who kind of ran that season as far as I could see. That's just my perspective. And I think, the shows suffered in a way too, because you have a lot of different directors that come in, and it's like any TV show. And I've worked on other TV shows. You have a showrunner, you have a creator of a show that kind of sets the look and what the show is, and you have the writers that kind of keep to that. But when you have different writers, they all want to bring something else in. They want to bring something new in, and the directors. When you have different directors, which is typical television or was typical, now, you have directors getting to kind of do everything. But each director wants to put their stamp on stuff, but they're still trying to create the essence of what it's supposed to be. So sometimes they kind of go overboard because you think, oh, Twin Peaks has that music, so their episodes will be wall-to-wall music and not give any breathing space. And it's just kind of regurgitated in a way. It becomes kind of a parody of itself. Um, And you have directors who want to kind of be different. So they'll try different things, but it may not be in the world of Twin Peaks, or it may be too much in the world of Twin Peaks, where then again it becomes kind of this parody of itself. I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, this is all me looking at it now with a kind of a renewed perspective, having gone through all of these things. At the time, I don't think I even cared. I was just happy to be there and I loved working on the show and I couldn't have been happier that I got to work on it. So, hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah, you're right there. What do you was there any particular episodes that you worked on that stood out for you that you really enjoyed? I know it's
Well,
all
I,
a great experience all around, but was there anything that sort of that stood out for you?
I suppose the last episode was probably the best for me, was really exciting. And the scene, at the end, that was all new. David rewrote he got the script. That's when he yelled at me. My biggest interaction with him, because I was given a script and I sent it out to the usual people. That right? That's my job as a coordinator, is to distribute and make sure everybody has the script and has, flies in and is all of that kind of stuff. And he was upset that the script had gone out without his approval. And I said, well, I did not know that, I was given it and told everything was fine, distribute it as you usually do. And he immediately, apologized to me for screaming at me and said, I know it's not your fault. But he took the script, and I don't know that I think the script's even up online, but it's a different script than what was originally shot or what David ended up shooting. And David rewrote, he kept in some of these things that he kind of had to be kept. But I know that a lot of it he didn't like, but he had to keep it in there because he had to resolve the stories that were progressing. And then he wrote just some scenes, and including the scene of Cooper in the bathroom. And I just remember being there while they were shooting that and how like moved I was just watching that being shot. I mean that I won't ever forget, because it was just so kind of not earth-shattering, but it was really something that just was locked in my brain. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was a very powerful moment that I remember. It really
Yeah,
was. Um, because if you're talking about the very last scene with Cooper smashing his head against a mirror, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, of course, at that point, to the audience watching that, the reaction I would suspect, and I had the same sort of reaction, is that you think, oh no, if it's the end of the world as we know it, in a sense, the Twin Peaks world. I mean, not my world, but
Right.
all is lost now. He's possessed. There's no way out of this now. It was kind of like a shattering kind of experience, if you see what I mean.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I was definitely left like, what's going to happen? And this is, there's no coming back from here.
yeah.
But, and I don't know if we knew, I think we knew that we weren't picked up, but I think that there was kind of a thing hoping to be picked up. I'm not sure if yeah, I think at that point we knew that it wasn't coming back. But, you never knew.
Do you know at any point, while it was, while it was being transmitted, season two, had they got into any talks about ideas for if it got picked up? Did it get to any stages of writing anything, any ideas down, or the scripts or
From that original second season I have no idea.
yeah,
I wasn't aware of that if that was the case. No, I was too low on the totem pole to be
uh-huh.
privy to that information. But from what I have gleaned since then, I do not think there was anything, David went and did Fire Walk with Me. and something that I think Mark chose not to pursue that. I think that they had a disagreement about the direction of it. And so David went and did that by himself.
Yeah.
That was after, I had already, as soon as the show's done, I'm done and I'm on to the next job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did work with David again after this on the air.
Well, yeah, that would be the next thing
Yeah.
immediately that yeah, on the air and then hotel room right after
In
that.
a hotel room. Yeah, yeah. So those two productions were really interesting to me. Sadly though, and this is a question I might as well ask you while it's just come to me. It didn't come to me earlier, but um, on the air and hotel room have never had a proper commercial release, as it were, on DVD or anything like that. Do you think
Right.
that could ever happen, or is it really a difficult rights issue? What do you think's the sort of situation with those sort of things, as far as you know? I mean,
Well, I know that we did talk with CBS about doing on the air and potentially hotel room as well. However, Viacom, that whole shift came and all the people we were working with at CBS were gone. And I think any interest in Twin Peaks right now with Viacom or now Paramount or Paramount Plus or whoever has Twin Peaks and has Lynch Frost, I don't know how interested they are in these things. I mean, potentially, uh, it's possible. I mean, anything's possible, but not probable. I don't know that there's really a big demand for it, and they have so many other things on their plate right now with the way Paramount is, so I doubt that that would come out, but you never know.
interesting. I just thought it just come to me. I thought I'd ask you, about
Yeah,
that. Yeah, because I know other people would be interested to know what the situation was with that. Um,
yeah. Yeah,
um,
we looked at doing it for sure.
it would be
And
great. Yeah.
yeah, Hotel Room was done with HBO way back when.
So
So
that
I'm
would be a different, yeah, again, different rights, yeah, holders and stuff.
Yeah,
I
different
think.
rights. I'm not sure for sure because it's possible. The only reason why CBS has the rights is because of the international distribution, which was Aaron Spelling, believe it or not, for Twin Peaks. And it's possible Spelling had the hotel room as well, in which case it would all be a Paramount again. So I don't know about hotel room, but there were only 3 shows for hotel room.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, they were free, roughly 30 minutes, weren't they each? I think something. I think so. I think it might have varied a wee bit. It's sort of 30-minute episodes, I think.
Oh, I thought that they were hour shows, but maybe they were 30 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe they were 42 or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure how long they are.
It was interesting though, that's a hotel room because it was all set in one sort of place, obviously, and focused on just a very small cast, very, very, minimal cast per episode in the
Hmm.
same hotel numbered room. And as it turns out, it's um the story is told over decades. I think the first one's like 1930s, there's a 1950s or 60s, and then there's the 90s and so on. And you've got some very good actors in it too. And you've got Alicia Witt in it, which is lovely, and Crispin Glover and a few others. Harry Dean Stanton, of course. And so was that a good production to work on, Sabrina? Because I find it really fascinating how it unfolds. It's very intriguing. Um, there's that kind of sort of mysterious side to it, whereas it's the same bellboy and the same chambermaid in all the different time periods, which is kind of an interesting touch as well of mystery there, which we never really find out about, I don't think.
Yeah. Isn't there a movie? I think there's a movie that does something similar that came out, like 10 years later or something
Right.
that had different stories in the same room. But anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed working on, well, On the Air, of course, was so much fun. The cast was great and everybody was really fun on that. Hotel Room was shot differently. Obviously, it wasn't a comedy and it was a little bit more dry. David shot two of the three episodes and it was more condensed, like you say, less cast, and it was shot very quickly, from what I remember. And what it wasn't as exhilarating, quite honestly, as the On the Airs. The On the Airs had a feeling of, you know, um, I don't know, camaraderie and stuff. The Hotel Room, everything was very pared down and just everything was done do as quickly as possible. So, I don't remember even how many days we did those episodes, but it all went by really quickly. So it was more of a, a kind of a drama piece where David would shoot, long takes. He would do, at that time, we were shooting on film, and the biggest role would be a 10-minute, like Rope, right?
Yeah.
With Hitchcock, right? All
It
those
needs to be
kind.
like shot like a play almost, like you're watching a theatre play with very few
Exactly.
cuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much
And
like it very much came across like that.
yeah.
Whereas On the Air was very much, as you said, an ensemble piece, and it was completely barking mad, you know, in the best possible way.
Yeah, it
Um, the
was
pilot
fun.
episode, that was the very first episode, is one of the funniest things I've seen for a t television series. What's really sad about it, the whole thing, is I believe there were 7 episodes made, but only
Right.
about
And only
three were
three.
transmitted, and the rest was pulled. That's
Exactly.
really sad, you know? Yeah.
It is. And I think only maybe Japan put out all of them. So that was the only way I think people saw the other episodes. But yeah, I agree. I was hoping all of them. I was really disappointed when it got canceled and they said, oh, that's it. We're only showing the three. And I think they showed like the two of them, the pilot and the first episode together or something. I mean, it was like really quick and then they pulled it and that was it. So that was disappointing.
Yeah, that was a terrible shame.
Yeah.
And we never got to really see it properly. It's very hard to find, you know, um,
Mm.
to watch it, which is a shame too, you know. Yeah, so I hope I go back to what we said earlier. I do hope that it gets a proper release. It would be wonderful to see it cleaned up, to see it high def, it'd be fantastic, I think. So one
I'll
day, Sabrina,
try.
hopefully, you know, keep
Yeah,
my
I'll
fing
try.
we keep our fingers crossed. We're all looking forward to it if it's possible. Yeah. Um, so Sabrina, I must ask you about a concert that David directed with a band, quite famous 80s band over here called Duran Duran. And how did that
Unst
project come about? Did they approach him directly saying, "Oh, I'd like David Lynch to direct this concert"? How did that kind of evolve, that project?
yeah, Duran Duran was I think it was American Express Unstaged was the concept, whoever came up with the idea, and they had different bands or people do something. And they approached Duran Duran, from what I understand, to do it. And Duran Duran asked David to direct. I mean, they really like him. And so David said, yeah, he would do it. And it was it was going to be a live show. It was shot live downtown LA. And we shot a whole bunch of experiments that David could use. And those are the background overlay, the things that the band's kind of overlaid on. And yeah, so it was shot live, but we had a lot of pre-recorded material that he utilized to put in for the songs. And it was fun. It was definitely a different experience for David. Live TV is so different. And so we were out in these trucks outside of the stage, and they were performing on the stage. But it was one of my favorite things to do. I really liked Duran Duran, so I enjoyed the whole thing, and was hearing those songs repeatedly, especially while we were doing all of the experiments, shooting those, and that we sh would shoot somewhere else, right? We at one point, David wanted to shoot those live at the same time, so everything was live. But thankfully, he listened to reason and said, okay, he would have those pre-recorded because it would have been really hard to try and do all of that. I mean, it could be done, but it would be crazy. And, a lot of stuff would be missed. Whereas we were able to contain it somewhat. Even though it's live TV, you still have things that are already pre-recorded. So it would be a lot easier to, put in. Have you watched it?
I have seen some of it. Yeah, it's been a long time, so I don't remember all of it, very well. I'd have to go back and have a look again, definitely. Yeah, to refresh my memory of it. But I do like quite a number of songs by Duran Duran. I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of them, but there are some songs that really I still like to this day. What favorites do you have?
I like Notorious.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorites. I mean, I do. I remember at the time of Duran Duran, they weren't my favorite then, but I've really grown to love them over the years. And now they're kind of like, it's like a special band. Maybe because of this show, I don't know. But whenever I hear any Duran Duran, I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'll listen to it. But at the time of Duran Duran, that was not my go-to music. I was more, punk rock, heavy. So Duran Duran was not there.
You were more punk. That's interesting. You were more punk. That's good. That's cool. That's nice to hear that. Because
Yeah.
I wasn't quite of the punk, I missed the punk generation by a few years, but what followed it, post-punk and new wave and all that stuff, yes,
Yeah.
I grew up with that, and I loved all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my favorites then, well, I mean, of kind of that ilk, I mean, heavy punk, I really loved Fear, which was an LA band. But X was always a good one for me, and The Clash. But my favorite band at that time, not that you asked, is still The Jam, and always has been and always will be.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. You like the Jam? Yeah, I liked a lot of their stuff. I mean, I even liked, his other projects afterwards. Like some of the Style
Oh,
Council was good.
I just
His
saw
solo
Paul
stuff's good,
Weller.
kind of followed his career kind of that he always seemed to make interesting music with each thing he did. But
I know, especially I just
yeah,
saw him like 2 weeks ago. He played here in Anaheim. I have to go see Paul Weller.
I've never seen him play live. I've never seen Paul Weller live.
Amazing.
Uh,
Amazing. And
I wish that I was in the age bracket where I could have seen the Jam play, but
mm,
I just missed the boat by a few years on that one. Yeah.
yeah, I did. I saw them live, thankfully.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Oh, well, that's really cool.
Good to be old, good to be old.
I could talk to you all day about music, Sabrina. Don't
Yeah,
get me
I know.
started.
Sorry about that. Okay.
I love that's one of my passions is music. Yeah. Um, but getting on to Twin Peaks coming back now.
Mhm.
I speak for a lot of people here, that thought that the chances of it ever coming back would be impossible. We none of us saw it coming. I don't think, to be honest with you. You move on with your life. You watch the odd DVD. You might pop it in now and again, Twin Peaks, or you know. But after a while, you think, you just think, there's no chance it's coming back. Um, and then all of a sudden it did, and that shocked a lot of people, myself included. I thought, and it felt surreal, even up to the point of seeing that first episode. I still didn't quite believe that it was happening. I thought I was, as the word, the term goes, I thought I was in a dream. And it turns out I wasn't quite, really. But um, can you tell us why Why did it feel the right time? Why did David suddenly want to bring it back?
Well, it's interesting. So we were working on the the um the mystery, the missing pieces, and which I think was the ended up title on it. But basically there was going to be a DVD that was coming out, and it was CBS putting it out, and they wanted to include Fire Walk with Me and they don't have Fire Walk with Me. That's with another company. And so they wanted to have extras. You know, you put out these DVDs, any home video thing, you want to have extra things. And they asked if there were any outtakes or anything like that that could be included. And David was like, yeah, I think that there are. And so three of us, Noriko, Dean, and myself, went down to where the storage was, where all the film is kept, all the film and audio, and went to the dailies and went to see everything and cataloged everything that was there and discovered that there was over an hour and a half worth of material that got put together into a film that ended up being called Missing Pieces, which is just either outtakes or extended scenes that were cut from the original film that were in this. So, of course, you know, everybody was very happy about that. But so it was a new movie, really, because it's feature length, right? I mean, a 90-minute plus, pretty good. So we had a release party for that and a screening of the Missing Pieces in Los Angeles. And Mark came, Mark Frost. And David and Mark hadn't really talked in a very long time. They had both gone off doing other things. And because of this, they started talking again. And from what I believe, Mark said to David, hey, why don't we write Twin Peaks? Why don't we do another season and let's see if something's there? And they started writing soon after that, and they were writing kind of in secret, you know, nobody, it wasn't being talked about to anybody that they were writing. And they wrote for about a year and came up with a whole, you know, kind of overview of everything that they wanted. And then at that point, decided to approach people to see, you know, who would want to distribute it. So I think it was really Mark, maybe, who initiated it based on this meeting because of those missing pieces. And that's how that came about.
Now, of course, it had the familiar, but it also had a lot of new things in it. Not least of all, a lot of new characters, but
Mhm.
also a lot of new locations. I mean, this literally was a bit of a globe-trotting Twin Peaks. You know, suddenly you're in New York or you're in Buckhorn, South Dakota, or you know, this, that, and the other. It's fascinating. Did you actually go to those places, or were they sort of a lot of the establishing shots just done um, separately, you know, with a small unit to show New York and so on and so on?
Um, it depended. Well, we shot all the Washington stuff up in Washington. All of the Los Angeles stuff in Los Angeles. There were some pieces that were shot different places, but the majority was shot, like stage work was shot in Los Angeles and locations. And then we shot in Paris. Um, so the majority of it was shot in Los Angeles and also Washington. Those were the two, but there were some things, and mainly more location, yeah, establishing shots, I guess. But all the stage set work was done in LA, whether it be on location or sets on location or on stage.
Interesting, because it really seemed to have this particular version of Twin Peaks, season three, as I call it. Um, uh, was much more kind of epic in a sense in scale, I think, than what it would have been originally. Where, you know, the original focused a little bit more, mostly on the small town of Twin Peaks. This one is going, you know, much further afield, with
Yeah.
its storylines and locations and so on. Did you feel, you know, you worked with David and you worked on the original series and season two. Just in your own heart here, Sabrina, did you ever think that it would come back?
That's an interesting question. I honestly never thought about it. I never thought about it. I assumed it was done, I suppose. I assumed it was done, so I never, even entertained the idea that maybe it would come back. It never really dawned on me because David was doing so many other things and I was working on all these other things. And so his interest was always doing something else. And it was only when going back to the missing pieces, doing a new master and all of that kind of stuff, that I saw, that he went back into that world again. But I know he really, really loved Fire Walk with Me and loved doing that film. And, he talks about that. Really, really enjoyed that. And he really loved doing the pilot of the original Twin Peaks. So I think for him, being able to go back into that world and maybe exploring that a little bit more that he didn't have a chance to, I could see why he'd want to do that, but I never really entertained that thought at all.
Fascinating, really. Yeah, to get your views on that is interesting. Um, so it was a massive undertaking, I think.
Mhm.
You all worked your socks off on that, I think. You know, it must be pretty grueling in places. We're talking an 18-hour movie. It was shot at, like a movie, wasn't it? And
It
then
was challenge.
broken up into, you know, episodes after. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a huge undertaking, you know, and an amazing result, you know. Um, I must ask you, Sabrina, I saw this on your resume. And I've not seen it, so I'd like to know a little bit about it. You did a mini series called Correspondence. Do you remember that? And Cheryl Lee was in the cast.
And correspondence.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
it was. But this is the little blurb I got for it.
Okay.
Six-part miniseries featuring Cheryl Lee. And the little bit of synopsis here is a suicide prevention counselor trying to,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes. Oh, that. I'm sorry. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Um that was a really important, I felt just an important subject. And I did not handle any of the actual production with that. I was just support for my friend to give advice to. And yeah, Cheryl was also, propelled by the message of it for suicide prevention. Yeah, and I think it's even won some awards. I don't know why I didn't remember. I apologize for that because that is such an important um, subject matter and um, point to talk about, mental health and suicide. It's extremely important in our society to talk about it and for people to know that there's help if, they feel that way.
So was it a drama or was it look sort of like a documentary type thing? Do you remember?
It was, yeah, no, it was a drama. It was more of a recreation of calling in to the 911 call center and how to talking to people about suicide and how to not um not lose hope, basically. So yeah, it's all like fictional stories about that.
Um, but more recently, Sabrina, you were a producer, or certainly, yeah, as far as I know, you were a producer on the new album that David did with Christabel called Cellophane Memories. Is that right? Your involvement with that? What
Oh,
produced
yeah,
it?
again, yeah, it's, I handle all of the kind of legal and
Yeah,
the not the creative parts at
no.
all. The It's David and Christabel worked with just themselves doing all of that kind of stuff together. They did an amazing job creating that. I think it took a year for them to do that album,
Ah.
coming up with.
I must ask you because it's common knowledge now that we do know that David has got emphysema now, and his work's more limited than it used to be. Um, but
Somewhat, not really.
yeah, well, he can't leave the. I believe what I heard, he couldn't leave the house so much.
Well,
Um,
he doesn't want to leave the
doesn't
house
want to.
because
Yeah,
he does. I will say, I think at this point today, I know six people who have COVID or just got over COVID. I mean, it's so prevalent here right now. And the flu, I know other people who got the flu or got some weird thing that they won't even say what it is. It's something, but oh, it's not COVID, but it's not the flu, but you have all these symptoms. And um, David is very concerned, and rightly so, because he'd be compromised with the emphysema with his lungs. He doesn't want to get sick. So it's not so much that he, physically can't go out. He is limiting himself so that he doesn't get sick. And, yeah, there are precautions that could be taken, and he will, figure that out if that's going to be the case. But he can also work remotely. So many people learned how to do that during COVID anyway. Directors are shooting things from New York, and they're shooting things in Paris at the same time. So, it's not going to hold David back in any way. But yeah, just to kind of be a little bit more specific, it's just so that he doesn't get sick. He doesn't want to get sick. He has not had COVID. He has not had the flu in a long time, or a cold even. He just tries to maintain his health, which he's doing quite well. And just to say too, he was diagnosed with this in 2020. So it's been a while. It's not like something that he was just diagnosed with. So all the working on the album with Christabel, doing his art, he did a couple of art installations and exhibitions and all of this kind of stuff. He's been working through it. It's not holding him back with work whatsoever.
yeah. Um, so in terms of that album, just briefly, Sabrina,
Sure.
um, was that done remotely, or did Christabel come to the studios to work
No,
with you?
she was there, and what
Yeah.
she did, which is what I do because I work with David as well every day. We take, you take COVID tests, and you also quarantine. With Christabel, she quarantined. And then, as long as after 5 days or however long, a week of quarantining, she's healthy, she can work with David. So that's all you kind of need to do is be able to quarantine and work. Or like with me, I continue to take tests. I wear a mask around him at all times. I'm never very close. We maintain a distance. And that's just how it is. But she was able to, I think she still wore a mask, but she was able to work with him, side by side in the studio. And it was just the two of them doing all the recording and everything. So that's how that would be, taken care of so that he's fine and healthy.
I must ask you, because a lot of fans have been wondering about this
Yeah.
because of the gestation period, I think, in some ways. Um, but this project that's been up for quite a long time on IMDb seems to still be saying that it's in progress production. Yes, is Unrecorded Night. Are you
So
able to?
can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody can put anything they want to up on IMDb.
Ah, right. Okay.
We have no control of what would be listed.
Yeah. Yeah.
We never listed Unrecorded Night or Wisteria or anything up, even when we were shooting. We never put anything up online, never on IMDb.
Ah,
These are other people who read something and they think, "Oh, I'll be that person to put that up there. I'm an important person. I have the scoop. I'm going to put that up there."
right.
So I honestly don't even know what's up on IMDb under my name or David's name or who knows what's up there.
Yeah.
So, but that project was started in 2020. We were shut down. Oh, actually, we started, David and I started it in 2019. We started pre-production at the beginning in 2020 in January. And then, of course, March 15th, I think we shut down because of COVID, and we've not gone back to it. Um, and hopefully we will go back to it. But he started doing other things and he got very happy. He was very happy doing other things. So I don't know if this project will, catch his attention again. Hopefully it will. But anyway, but
Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. Not that I got anything to do with IMDb. And
no, no, I know. But
I don't advocate what goes on there or anything like that, you know. But
yeah,
but I know a lot of people were wondering, you know, about that.
sure.
What was happening with it, you know. Um,
Yeah. It's there. Hopefully we'll go back to it. Again, David's just been super happy. He just did this album with Christabel. I think they're doing another one.
oh, yeah.
He's doing art. He really likes his life. He's got a lot of things he can be doing, and doing a project like that would take, years of his time. So he has to be 100% committed, and he's so happy. I don't know that he'll want to commit. Hopefully he will.
Yeah,
We'll see.
is how he feels, yeah. But this has been lovely, Sabrina. I want to thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you about all this. It's been a lot of
Absolutely.
fun and a lot of good insights, you know.
Anything else you wanted to ask that you didn't know?
Not that I can think of.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for having me.
I think I got everything I answered pretty much. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been great talking to you, Sabrina. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for being so patient. I know I said I was going to do this a while ago, so thank you.
Oh, no, no, that's no problem. We got that. The main thing is we're here now. That's all that matters, really. So please, take care of yourself, and on behalf of myself and the viewers, could you please send on our best wishes to David as well?
Absolutely.
Thank,
Absolutely.
thank
I'll be
you.
happy. So thank you.
Lovely. And till then, Sabrina, take care, and thanks, guys, for watching too. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.